Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 205. I'm Enigmaeus, and today we're continuing the USS Discovery build, although it's a hybrid now. I'm not even sure we should be calling it the Discovery anymore. It's been a little while since the last video, and that was primarily because there was a lot of stuff that I had to do just to kind of get us caught up to where everything that we had done suggested we should be. A lot of that was on the nacelles. We had completed certain sections of it in terms of getting the layout done and getting things filled in structurally, and we had not done certain parts as well just because they were the same thing flipped over to the other side of the nacelle or whatever. So we got that done. I had to push in the walls of these saucer section components, the outer perimeter of the inner ring and the inner perimeter of the outer ring had to be pushed in just a little bit so that they would be consistent with the actual design of the saucer section. And you can see this image here that I just kind of took and zoomed in and sharpened so that you can hopefully get an idea of what we're looking at structurally here, some of the changes that I wanted to make, things that I wanted to add in order to finish off this part of the saucer section. There's nothing especially large per se that we have to be worrying about. We've already taken care of the large structural elements, but it's the little details that we have to kind of be looking at now in order to get things consistent with the original, and also just kind of getting those last little finishing details in place that sort of bring the ship to life. Whereas if we just kind of left them as they are now, I wouldn't necessarily be unhappy with anything, but I think we could do better. So one of the first things that I wanted to focus on was these connectors between the saucer ring sections. They're the structural elements that hold the actual rings together, and they're also the hallways, the conduits through which you would traverse between the two rings. If you look at the image, you can see that there's lights on the inner perimeter of the outer saucer section ring, which suggests that there are rooms that are occupied by people in that area. So we can't say that the outer ring is just all stuffed with machinery. There are lit sections that indicate that we would have people in there, and if we're going to have people in there, there has to be a way that they can get between the different saucer sections. So that's kind of one of the key elements here. And for people getting this ship with the blueprint, who want to finish off the interior and make use of all of the different spaces on the ship, having to do some sort of renovation to make their own hallways between the two sections would have been kind of lame when it's part of something that we could be doing here and getting it taken care of. So that's basically what we're doing with this episode, is getting those in place and, you know, making the necessary tweaks and adjustments after the fact to get them to the point where they're what they need to be in order to serve their purpose and look the way we want them to look. So it's, compared to some of the other things that we've been doing, this seems like kind of a small task, but we are trying to basically have this hallway transition between these two rings in a way that looks believable, with the understanding that they're supposed to move against each other. So the outer ring can rotate independently of the inner ring, so that there has to be a way, first of all, that they're connected, that allows that movement, and then still has that function of allowing people to go between one section and the other. It's kind of a mind-boggling proposition when you ask me. I'd hate to be the person who was caught in one of the hallways around the time that the rings started moving, but that's hardly my problem. The nice thing about this kind of a scenario is that the rings will never actually move against each other with this build, so we don't have to worry about making a convincing transition with that in mind. But I did kind of want things to kind of line up a little bit with what makes sense. So one of the things you might notice is that I've got these black stripes on the outside edge of the small ring and the inside edge of the large ring, and those are sort of the dark place, the little shadow-filled recesses that indicate this is where some sort of mechanism is seated that allows this thing to move, or supports it in the movement that it is required to do. I think it works just depending on the images that you look at. It does have that sort of feeling already, that there's shadows and indentations and things going on, so it makes sense from that point of view. And it's the only detail on the ship so far that isn't basically defined by whether or not it's glossy or whether or not it's white. So it's got that little contrasting element to it as well. The other things that we have to be thinking about are structural elements on the saucer section themselves that serve no actual functional purpose. They're just there for the appearance, and we'll be working on those as well as we move along here with this. And then we have to be thinking about basically just the finishing details right the way through. We've got a little bit of work left to do on the nacelles. There's the lit strips on the inside of the nacelles that I have to finish off, get that taken care of. We've already got the hallway, the conduit that you would use to transition between the main hull section and the nacelles, and also to get from the main hull section to the bridge area. So it's just a matter of getting everything sorted out. We still have to provide access from the bridge area to the small saucer ring. I'm not 100% clear how we're going to do that, but it's all different things that are coming together fairly quickly now that we've got the main structure done. So we'll be looking at that through the microscope in the very near future. It's just nice to have things caught up to the point where I can work on one thing and not feel like I've got so many other things that I have to finish first, that I should be finishing first, but we're put off for the sake of keeping things going. So in this case, we're just kind of clearing out the extra blocks, filling things in, making sure that all the transitions are the way that they're supposed to be, that they match the sections that we've already done. And now that we've got this done basically on two sides, it'll be fairly easy to finish off to the last two. So there's a total of 4 of these spokes, if you think of them in those terms, between the two saucer sections that we need to have in place. And we're getting the initial structure done on the first 2, making sure that they line up the way that they're supposed to, and then we can do the other 2 fairly quickly and easily. Now, one of the things that I have to do that I won't be turning into an episode, because I think it would be just horribly dull after just a couple of minutes, is going around and smoothing the interior, getting it to the point where it looks finished, to the point where all you would really need to do after that would be add all of the different places, rooms, openings, whatever you want to have, without having them look all boxy and voxely. So we'll be doing that sort of in behind the scenes. It's a fairly large task, but I'm not going to be spending a huge amount of time getting it perfect. It's just going to be sort of looking at it. You won't see any hard edges or anything like that exposed. So we can get that set up, and that will be sort of one of the final courtesy things that we'll be doing as part of releasing this as a blueprint for people to do what they want. I'm kind of interested to see if there's going to be anyone who used this as part of a scenario where they can actually have something going on inside the ship that players are expected to go in and explore and do whatever and accomplish various different things. I think that would be probably the most practical use of a structure like this. I have my doubts as to whether or not this ship is going to be especially mobile. I think that we can load it up with generators and RCS units and thrusters and whatever you can imagine that might support the ship in moving, and still find that the acceleration and the turning are absolutely horrible just because of the size. So it's not really the kind of thing that you're going to be flying around from place to place. But at the same time, there's always that sort of question of whether or not it might not still be an interesting thing to have, where it's basically just sitting dead in space or extremely limited maneuverability. And the goal is to rebuild something, get things working, do something, who knows. but that would be kind of, I think, an interesting use of this. It's just not the kind of thing that I would personally be interested in spending the time to make it work. You can see we kind of pulled away a little bit and looked. I'm happy with the scale of these little spoke-like things, but I felt like the top was just a little bit too flat. So the size overall is not something that I'm unhappy with, or that I think needs to be modified, but it would be nice to get just a little bit more going on the top section here so that it doesn't look so flat and plain. So all we're really doing is converting that very top row, instead of extending out at a 45-degree angle following the row below it, we're having it push back in at the top at a 45-degree angle, and that's going to take care of that problem of being looking a little bit too wide and a little bit too flat. So a very simple and straightforward modification, but it's probably the last major thing that we need to do here before we can call these guys done. So finally, a little bit of progress that I can show you guys. And like I say, there's all kinds of little details and things that we can be adding over the next couple of episodes, getting them in place, getting them taken care of, working towards the final goal of releasing this guy as a blueprint, and then people can do whatever the hell they want with it, carve big chunks out of it. It's up to them. I will be very happy to see this fellow declared complete and have the liberty to move on to the next project. So if you want to be notified about the next video, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. There's a minute or so left that you can watch, just kind of putting the final tweaks on this guy, painting and texturing and doing all those fun things. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.